Hey everyone, this is probably going to be one of our most abstract videos yet. Previously, we discussed the 10 Sefirot and their significance in the manifestation of reality according to Kabbalah. Covers the entire tree of life from Keter, the uppermost sphere of infinite unmanifested potential, all the way down to Malchut, the tangible and physical reality in which we reside. Today, we are going to continue going deeper into this topic. If you haven't seen the previous Tree of Life episode so far, we highly recommend going back and getting the basics down before going too far. Up until now, we have briefly mentioned that there is a connection between the Tree of Life and the Hebrew alphabet. At last, it's time we establish what that connection is and open the discussion on the 22 creative forces. On the Tree of Life, there are 22 pathways drawn between the 10 Sefirot. In the Sefer Yetzirah, the most ancient text available on Jewish esotericism, these are described as the remaining 22 paths in the 32 paths of wisdom, which follow the 10 Sefirot. When looking at these pathways, they would represent the active movement of energy from one Sefirah to another. For example, the path between Keter and Hokmah is seen in essence as pure formlessness moving into the first emanation of creation. The 22 pathways are most commonly represented by the Hebrew alphabet, which is said to be a series of sounds based on the 22 most essential frequencies of creation. Through the Sefirot, these frequencies are said to express the process of creation as it manifests from the incorporeal realms of God all the way down into the physical reality which we are experiencing now. This is the very same process that describes how thoughts, feelings, and inspirations enter into our consciousness along their journey from the higher realms, and thus informing our bodies as to the tangible actions that we perform in our day-to-day lives. These letters are also often represented by very abstract concepts, and so as we go through them in this video, we encourage you to practice seeing these not as the image associated with the letter, such as an ox, a house, a camel, and so on, but look at what the essence of the idea is. All of the images that are associated with the letters should be seen as simple abstracts used to express the nature of an idea. Before we dive in, there are a few other things we have to look at briefly. First, the Hebrew alphabet is divided into 3 unique groupings. These are called the mother letters, the double letters, and the single or simple letters. In essence, the mothers are the root forces from which the remaining letters descend from. The doubles all have dual natures, describing opposing concepts like life and death, wisdom and folly, or peace and war. These all have multiple pronunciations as well. The single letters each represent singular ideas and bear singular pronunciations. Further, the 3 mothers represent the Holy Trinity, as well as the elements air, water, and fire. The 7 double letters correlate to the 7 planets, 7 alchemical metals, or in Hermetic Kabbalah, the 7 chakras. Finally, the 12 single letters relate to the 12 signs of the zodiac. Together, all 22 pathways correlate with the 22 major arcana on the tarot, and we'll come back around to this topic at the end of the video. With all of this in mind, the final item we must discuss is that, as mentioned in a previous episode, there are principally 2 Tree of Life models which can be looked at, the Standard Tree and the Lurian Tree. Each of these models have their own unique placement of the 22 pathways, which can be seen as a right and left brain of each other, or the linear and abstract variations. In the Standard Tree, they are placed linearly from top to bottom and right to left, starting with the first letter at the top and ending with the last letter on the bottom. The Lurian Tree, on the other hand, observes the relationships in a different way. The 3 mother letters are the 3 horizontal lines. The 7 double letters are placed upon the 7 vertical lines, and the 12 single letters are placed upon the 12 diagonal lines. Each of these versions of the tree bear a great deal of information and learning that can be extrapolated within one's consciousness. For now, and just to keep things simple, we'll be exploring the traditional Hebrew meanings in relationship to the standard model of the Tree of Life, which is also the model most commonly used in the tarot. For those who want to explore the relationships to the Lurian Tree, you are encouraged to dive in as you see fit. Now, as with the Sefirot, each of the pathways correlate to both the micro and macrocosm, meaning they bear significance to our individual lives and the universe on a greater scale. So today, we'll do our best to provide a simple explanation of both the creation of reality from heaven to earth, as well as their relationship to you personally. For those who want an even deeper explanation of these letters, we encourage you to check out our book, The Book of Patch, which comes with Patch Tarot. We also recommend starting a daily meditation upon each letter in sequence to grasp a deeper meaning of the symbols and gain a more personal experience of these primary forces. Finally, please keep in mind that no matter what, truly connecting with the love in your heart is the great key to everything. All of this information, the pathways, and so on may serve as a powerful tool which we can use to support connecting our egos with our higher selves, so that we may more fully comprehend the reality that we are a part of. Without further ado, here are the 22 pathways of the Tree of Life. The first path, Aleph. Located between Keter and Hokmah, Aleph describes the principle and primary force of creation. Aleph is most commonly symbolized as an ox, implying a great and powerful force. Thousands of years ago, the ox was a symbol of the raw power of the earth and the power that can be harnessed to do all manner of things. Aleph represents the first and only creative force, where all preceding creative forces are simply different states that this original force can move into. In this primal state of pure beingness, it is not a force in action. In fact, it's not doing anything. It is the essence of infinite potential in perfect stillness. To us, it represents perfection beyond human comprehension. The second path, Bet. The letter Bet can be observed as the start of the story of creation, as the first letter is actually silent. In this, we also have the beginning of duality, seeing both the creator and created. Bet is often represented by a house, as it implies the idea of a container or vessel by which the created world may come into being, just as the body is the container for the soul. It is the idea of a container, though nothing yet contained. In a simpler sense, this is the same unmoving power as Aleph, but now it has become aware that it may organize itself in some way. To us, it represents the basis of the awareness of multiplicity within unity. The third path, Gimel. Gimel is an expansion of that which came before it, the essential consciousness with form expanding both beyond and inside of itself. Gimel emerges as the third and unifying pathway, resolving and harmonizing the opposites between the first two, forming a sacred link. Gimel relates with Camel, the self-sufficient animal that travels for days across the desert, which otherwise was uncrossable in ancient times. Back then, camels were seen as this sacred golden creature capable of moving through the sandy abyss. The camel's journey bears significance to the Tree of Life by representing the pathway which crosses the barrier between Hokmah and Binah, referred to as the abyss. This process of consciousness traversing the abyss is also referred to as the dark night of the soul, a period of suffering or facing one's own death, after which the soul dissolves into unity and emerges enlightened. Further, Gimel is a symbol of the expansion of civilization and creation through different states of being. To us, it may also represent the spirit of giving and receiving, the unification of opposites, and the deep intuition of just simply knowing. The fourth path, Dalet. Dalet is the pathway of dimension and is also sometimes seen as the path of humility and receptiveness. Dalet relates with a door and embodies the concept of shape and the idea of going through. A door is a gateway through a solid object like a wall. Esoterically, a door is a special kind of void, so to speak, that you can pass through from one state to another. This is a place on the Tree of Life where we now have dimension moving between states, where before we only had pure energy and its expansion. To us, Dalet represents the nullification of the ego in the presence of the spirit and how to return to the source. The fifth path, Hay. Hay is symbolized by a window and represents a point of view. It is a window to divine revelation, or a perspective that has to do with the way that you express yourself. It's sort of like the concept of looking, yet not specifically looking at anything, because so far nothing is actually manifested yet in this region of the Tree of Life. Put simply, this path represents the perspective of the essential observing capacity within creation, and the expression of this core perspective setting things in motion. We can relate this to our quantum physics double slit experiment, where we learn that simply observing something affects both us and the result of what becomes manifested. From the perspective of God, you might consider that setting a perspective on something sets motion to the creative process. This letter symbolizes the effortlessness of the world and the symbol of divinity. The sixth path, Vav. Vav is the pathway of the learning and teaching of cosmic law. It is the sixth path, and so the binder or unifier of energies. Vav often means nail, or sometimes hook or anchor, which is meant to represent the thing that joins other things together and hold them in that state. This is the cosmic principle that allows atoms to form bonds together and create molecules. However, at this ethereal level, there is still nothing manifested yet. Thus, this is the power of the Creator to enter into the world. To us, it represents the geometry of the Merkaba and the connection between heaven and earth. The seventh path, Zion. Zion commonly means sword or weapon, and also relates sometimes to the concept of a tool. Often, weapon in our minds bears significance to war and violence, but the concept here has more to do with the essence of power unused, like a samurai who meditates with his sword, unmoving but focused, or even the captain or general whose sword comes as a symbol of the power that they command. This commanding aspect also relates to the carpenter or gardener who commands various tools to create new things with virtue and care. And so, the ability for spirit to actually build and materialize things now exists. To us, this is the concept of movement and the struggle and balance between opposing forces, including the awareness of being a unified spirit and an individual soul at the same time. The eighth path, Chet. Chet has several main descriptors. The most common is that of a fence or ladder, though sometimes also described as a hedge. The idea behind the fence or hedge is that of a boundary layer by which the creation can become manifested within. And a ladder is really just a fence on its side, delineating the multidimensional boundary that is being created. The concept of fence and ladder are very interesting too, because with a simple twist, the idea changes to that of DNA. This is also relative to the concept of Jacob's ladder, which comes from a story in the Bible where a character named Jacob has a vision of an eternal spiraling pillar of light, which was said to be an insight into the higher dimensions all the way to unity consciousness with God. For us, in this way, we can connect Chet to the ability to go above and beyond our earthly limitations. The ninth path, Tet. The ninth path is very curious indeed because of the wide array of potentials that it can describe. The two most common relations are that of a basket and of a serpent. This is the mystery of Tet, in that it can represent polarities such as good and evil by the nature of the serpent being both related to the Ouroboros, a symbol of wholeness and infinity, and the serpent in the Garden of Eden from Genesis. The imagery of a basket, on the other hand, is often said to represent the open container as opposed to the closed container from before, and manifestation of each unique soul in the process of creation. Tet also has one more representation, although much less common, and that is mud. This is the birth of density and mass, though still nothing yet is manifested. But now the energetic substance for creation comes into being, like the unused clay before the sculptor gives it form. To us, this letter teaches us to distinguish between what we perceive to be good and bad, and to strive for the purity of that which is holy and good in our lives. The 10th path, Yud. Yud relates with the hand and speaks to the operation and operator of the world. Building upon what came before, there was an ethereal tool that could be used to create things, the primordial mud that can now be shaped, and now Yud is the hand of the operator which uses the created powers and the intelligence to know how to use the primordial mud which came before. In a simpler sense, it is the power of spirit to govern and guide the materially created. The Yud is drawn as a dot and describes that creation came from a single point, and that singularity is the essence of all of life. To us, this may be experienced as the singularity in our hearts which brings life to our bodies, and this is the same power of spirit to govern and guide the material universe. The 11th path, Kaf. Kaf relates to the palm of the hand and may either be like a cupped, outstretched palm waiting to receive, or an upright palm held high, like a crossing guard moving traffic, or like when you push or invoke something to happen. It is similar to the idea of a container, but relates more to the potentials and possibilities of that which can be received by matter, by the power of spirit, and likewise, the ways in which spirit can move matter. It relates to the beginning of formation, or things made more solidified. Now that there is primordial mud and the intelligence of knowing how to use it, this is the actual motion of creation itself. This